Hello, everybody. You know what it is. Today we are doing another NFL mock draft for the 2022 NFL draft. It's only been like a week, maybe two, since I've uploaded my most recent mock draft, which was my first one of the off season. There's already been a change that's to the point where I feel like I need to make another video. I was considering making another video anyway, just because I had some new ideas, some new speculations. However, I knew I needed to, officially needed to make another one of these after the Saints made the trade with the Eagles. Now, I have a video in the works that I'll give you the tiniest little glimpse into the idea. Yeah, that I have all of that as my notes for that video, which is on teams that I think could or will likely trade in the first round, and whether they're going up or down. I have that marked as well. And I had a few teams starred to mean like the teams that are most likely to trade, whether it's marked up or down or both. And one of the starred teams I had was the Eagles. So I'm already off to a hot start with getting the draft right, at least in terms of trades. And I hope it continues to follow, because right now we're going to start this draft 2 minutes into the video. Thank you for your patience. We are going to start with the Jets actually trading up to the Jags pick. The Jags pick number 1 overall. Right before I start this, I feel like I need to give a quick preference. I think I'm just going to start over. Yeah, I think it's been too long. Yeah. Black. Hello, everybody. No, it's not good. Are you ready for some football? No? Well, we don't have any for a while, but we do have talk about football. And then the draft in a month. Well, a little bit less than a month now. And I have a mock draft for you. And some ASMR. If you like the sound of my voice, that is, because the way I do this, I don't incorporate any sounds to this particular form of NFL ASMR. It's just me rambling. It's just me talking. I don't really whisper, so it's just me talking in a low voice. If you like the sound of my voice, you're in the right spot. If you don't like the sound of my voice, you're probably in the wrong spot. But if you like the sound of my voice but are looking for me to actually give you like triggers or whatnot, I have a plethora of other videos that I implore you to go watch instead. But if you're just here to have me rambling in the background or something of that sort, or just like the NFL, you're in the right spot. I had a mock draft about a week, maybe 2 weeks ago. I was considering doing another one. However, I knew I needed to do another one after the Eagles and the Saints made that trade, which is the Saints trading away pick 18 and their first round pick next year for pick 19 and 16 from the Eagles. In my other bit over here, I have in my notes, this is a little note section for all the teams that I think are either going to or are likely to trade in the first, and or notes on all the teams actually about first round trades. And I have a few teams starred, and the starred meaning like I personally almost guarantee that they are going to trade. And one of the teams I had starred was the Eagles, so I'm already off to a hot start. I'm already right there. Now, with being right with trades, let's hope that that continues over to the actual draft, because with the first overall pick I have the Jaguars trading back. The Jaguars have publicly words. The Jaguars have publicly said they are willing to trade back, but they need proper compensation. If a team is going to trade up to number 1 overall, it's very likely not for a quarterback. It could be, but it's very likely not. It's more likely either going to be specifically for Aiden Hutchinson or specifically for Kayvon Thibodeaux. Or even one of the tackles, but I think all of those are fairly unlikely because there's Aiden Hutchinson, Kayvon Thibodeaux, both defensive ends, both arguably the same tier considered. I think Hutchinson is much better than Kayvon. I don't think super highly of Kayvon. That's my personal opinion. As a whole, in terms of NFL GMs, it seems like they are like right there with each other. Is what I'm saying. And so they're about the same. And then you got the tackles that are about the same. And then you got the quarterbacks, which are different, but like each one, they're just two different flavors. But they're like the same, like talent level, tier-wise kind of thing, ranking wise. Like they could go late in the first, they could go like high in the first due to just how quarterbacks go. But they also could not for some reason. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think quarterbacks go in this first round. But when you look at all the positions, like at least all the powerful main positions, there's like 2 players at that position that are like the same talent. It's very tip top. There's only 2 positions that I think there's definitely like a steep drop off between 1 and 2. And that's safety, which is Kyle Hamilton, but I don't think Kyle Hamilton goes 1 overall. And corner. Now, it could be argued that corners are dead set even. I personally think that NFL teams are kind of worried about Stingley's injury. And I think that teams personally value Ahmed Gardner, whose name is Sauce Gardner, a little bit higher. And I think the Texans are wanting to take a cornerback at the first pick. And I feel like that's not like a super secret thing. And I feel like the Jets really want Sauce Gardner. And then there was a report that came out the Jets are interested in Sauce Gardner. The Jets have the most draft capital this year. It's like the Texans, the Jets, and then there's like one more team. What is it? The Seahawks maybe? No, it's not the Seahawks. There's one more team that has just a plethora of draft picks. It's the Chiefs. They have just a smorgasbord of like all throughout. Like the Chiefs are more back-ended, but like the Texans and the Eagles even and the Jets are all like semi front-loaded. So they all have like ammunition to trade up. The Texans probably won't at this point. But if the Jets really want their guy, they can probably just give up a second and a third to move up 3 spots and not have to worry about giving up like the first round this year. Sorry, the other first round this year or the first round next year, because it's only 3 picks. That's what I think is going to happen. So I think the Jets trade up to the number 1 overall spot. This is the first pick, mind you. I'm sorry this is so long into the video, but I do have to preface things, and I did have to explain this process thoroughly. With the first overall pick, the Jaguars trade their pick away to the New York Jets, and the New York Jets draft Sauce Gardner, the cornerback from Cincinnati. He has never given up a touchdown in coverage his entire collegiate career. Not sure if that's just man or in general, but I'm fairly certain that's in general, which like absurd stat. He believes himself to be the number one overall player in the draft. I think a few other teams agree, and I think the Jets might be one of them. And I think the Jets don't think that they can wait at 4 anymore to get him. First pick overall, Sauce Gardner, Cincinnati, cornerback. Now the second overall pick, I think, based on how many what's it called, personnel. Yeah, personnel from the Lions were at the pro day for Oregon for Kayvon Thibodeau, I think. Well, you have to assume it's for Kayvon. It's fairly easy to speculate that they want Kayvon, that they're expecting Kayvon. It's fairly easy to speculate that Aiden Hutchinson is going to be the first overall pick. Yeah, if the Jags stay put, he very likely is. But if the Jags don't stay put, like in my scenario here, then Aiden Hutchinson could be drafted by the Jets, but he probably isn't their target if they trade up. Aiden Hutchinson might be the player that they like. Obviously, that a team will trade up for. But in my scenario, Aiden is still available. The Michigan defensive end, who is just athletic and just plays mean, like, and strong. Not like cheating mean, but like just rough. Still available. Very Dan Campbell kind of guy. Dan Campbell being the head coach for the Lions. I think they're expecting like Kayvon, which in my opinion is the number 2 behind Aiden in terms of pass rushers or edge rushers. So I think they're going to be delighted that Aiden is still on the board to them, and I think they're going to sprint to the podium and turn in the card saying Aiden Hutchinson to the Lions, number 2 overall. Moving on to pick 3, we have the Texans. Now, the Texans just got a boatload of picks for trading away Deshaun Watson to the Cleveland Browns. Now, when you look at their needs, it's just about everything but quarterback, really. Like, sure, you could argue that they need a quarterback, but, like, Davis Mills is arguably the best quarterback, but best rookie quarterback last year, so why would you go in the opposite direction of that? They could really honestly go any position. So it means they can truly go BPA, best player available. Now, obviously BPA isn't unanimous, and it's not an actual big board that just all teams just look at and just pick from the top. No, it's per team. Each team has a big board for themselves in their war room, and that's basically how they operate. There's certain sets and whatnot determining things. And personally, looking at how the Texans are set up right now, they have Lovie Smith as their head coach, who's a defensive-minded guy. He's a very good coach. So it's very likely they go defense with their first overall pick. They could take the best tackle available, whether that be Ike Ekwonu or Evan Neal, whatever their fancy is. Or I mean, I'm almost second guessing myself on this one right now. Or they can look at the board, but I'm gonna stick true to what I have written down here. I still think it's probably more accurate than the other way is, at least based on how my scenario has started. I think they're going to see the board of like how players are and whatnot, and look at the drop off like in talent level on the D line, and there's still 3 guys that are in the same ballpark. Kayvon's is a little bit higher than the rest of them, though. I'll say that. But then you look at like what else do they need tackle? Like there's still 2 guys available. However, when it comes to corner, it goes Sauce Gardner, Derek Stingley, and then the number 3 corner, who's like Trent McDuffie or Andrew Booth, depending on what kind of corner you want. So like the drop off's kind of far. The Texans have another first round pick. They're gonna be able to double dip their chip, and I think they know that. They're smart. They know that. So I think they're going to kind of intentionally reach on the player that they know won't be there, or that the position of player that they of talent level, whatever, that they know will not be there at their next pick. Stingely, if Sauce is already gone, Stingely's not going to make it to pick 13. So I think they're going to. Like, they could very well take Kayvon. I think taking Kayvon is a very, very possible thing in this scenario. Excuse me. But I don't think Kayvon is the pick. I think it's actually Derek Stingley. I think they take Stingley here, the cornerback from LSU. If he never got injured, he'd probably be picked before Sauce. He had one of the best like 2 years ago, he had one of the best, maybe 3 years ago, one of the best seasons as a corner. And then, like, didn't quite put it together the same, and also got injured a bunch. So yes, there is, like, he was injured, so you kind of have to, like, question the results from those seasons, which are the non-good ones. But it's also the issue of, is he going to stay injured his career, which is probably his biggest knock and could knock him down draft boards. But based on the reaction to his pro day recently, which also happened between my last mock draft and now, he ran a 4.37, I believe, and also, among other things, he was just fine at, and it showed that he may have been through an injury, but it's not showing with his physicals, which is usually where it shows. So I think his stock is heading back up, which is why I think he's the number 3 overall pick to the Texans, which in my scenario so far, we have 3 picks done so far, and there's been 2 cornerbacks drafted. That would be wild. Moving on to pick 4, we have the former Jets pick, which is now the Jaguars pick. The Jags in this scenario, they might be looking at tackle. They could very seriously be looking at tackle right now. Because, man, like, what's it called? Cam Robinson, their left tackle, is good. I think that's who it is. And then they got another guy at right tackle who they just re-signed or something like. I'm not 100% certain. But I thought tackle was, like, for certain their need. I thought it was 100%, like, that's who they're gonna go with. They're gonna take Evan Neal, like just like that. Like, I thought it was, like, a lock. And then I looked at their team a little bit more, and I was like, like, they could use a left guard too, like, or a guard. Maybe just drafts to tackle, put him at guard. That might work. They might do that. They very well might do that. Then I was like, look at the one asset on their team that's actually good. Josh Allen. Sure, they added benefits to that, and by Josh Allen, I mean the defensive end, not the quarterback. They added assets to the team. Foye Lucan, I adore him. He's a phenomenal linebacker, one of my favorites in the whole league at any position. So they just signed him, which is phenomenal. Like, they are a growing team. They've made success. They still have a ton of money. And I think they're gonna see, oh man, like, potentially the number 1 player in the whole draft at a position we need is still available, and that's Kayvon Thibodeaux. He's probably not the number 1, but he could be the number 1. He was, like, if you just didn't know who, like, if you just looked up a mock draft a year ago before, like, this collegiate season, I almost guarantee you the mock draft would have Kayvon Thibodeaux being the number 1 overall pick. So. He's fallen down boards because of his potential work ethic issues, and he didn't do phenomenally well. It was either the Senior Bowl or the Shrine Bowl, one of the two. But there's question marks around him. Bust defensive ends are a thing. He has all the tools to put together. I think it draws a red flag when he personally says that he wants to be Jadeveon Clowney, or like Jadeveon Clowney is a player that he like wants aspires to be, like looks at, whatever. Jadeveon Clowney is a NFL bust. He has an NFL career and he's had a successful NFL career. But if you're the number 1 overall pick and your career ends up being journeyman defensive end who's not a very good pass rusher but can run defend pretty good, you didn't live up to the hype, which means you are in essence a form of bust. Even if you do have a successful career, which Clowney has and is continuing to do, his performance thus far has not warranted that number 1 overall pick status. I think if you're aspiring to be a guy like that, that does not look good for you. Like, sure, he was arguably one of the best college defensive ends ever, but that's the past now. Like, is that what Kayvon, like, I'm talking to you now, Kayvon, is that what you want to be? You want to be really good at like the past, or do you want to be like the best at like what you're about to start? Could be the best player in the draft though. So in the Jags front office is straight up fucking lazy. So they might just take him because it's like, oh, he could be, one of those kind of scenarios. Like, oh, he could be the number 1. He could do it. And like, the other guys are like, oh, he might be a bust. And then like, oh, you know what I mean? That might not have made sense, but I'm going to keep going as if I did. So now we're at pick 5. I'm at pick 5 now. That was Kayvon Thibodeau going 4th overall to the Jaguars. After a trade back with the Jets. Now we're at pick 5. And we have another trade. It is the New York Giants trading back. Now the New York Giants have publicly said that they are wanting to trade one of their first-round picks, which probably means that they're trying to get a first-round pick next year for it, right? Right? That's usually how it goes. They have 2 first-round picks already, which I already said. They have pick 5 and they have pick 7. Pick 7 is valuable because it's in front of Atlanta and Seattle. Pick 5 is valuable because it's in front of Atlanta, Seattle, the Giants again, and Carolina. Most importantly, Carolina. If your quarterback's Malik Willis, you can afford to wait to 7, 8, probably not 9, but you can afford to 7 and 8. Wait to 7 and 8. But if your quarterback's Kenny Pickett, like the quarterback you want in the draft, like if you're a front office and you're like, our quarterback of the future is probably Kenny Pickett, we want him. You're gonna have to like leapfrog Carolina, because Carolina has had like extensive interviews as far as I know. I don't know about extensive, but like, I know whenever the pro day was for Kenny Pickett, Matt Rule like stayed after with Kenny and like had him do extra drills, which like, oh, you could say like it's kind of negligible, but like Kenny Pickett was a verbal commit to Matt Rule at Temple when Matt Rule was there before he moved to Baylor. So that's worth noting. Like, if you Matt Rule really likes to do that. So you think he's gonna do it again? Yeah. I think when it comes to Carolina's like standpoint in this draft, if they're smart, they're looking at their picks and they're going, all right, well, we need to get, we can either Kenny Pickett and make it worthwhile for us, and then the rest of the pick we'll just figure out. The rest of the team's fine, especially if we have a quarterback. Or they can be like, we need to address this team and trade back and acquire picks in the 2nd, 3rd round, because they have pick 6, and then it's like, I have my notes up here. They have like pick 6, and then they don't pick again until 132. The Carolina Panthers don't pick again until 132. Probably want to trade back a little bit and acquire some picks between 6 and 132. That's a lot. They're probably going to trade back so they can do that. they're especially going to do that in my scenario. I keep doing this. I'm sorry, y'all. The Panthers are going to trade back in my scenario because the quarterback that they want is gone because a team traded up to grab Kenny Pickett at pick 5 overall with the Giants. And hot take machine. I'm about to be a hot take machine. I'm about to generate a hot take. Are you ready? The Vikings trade up to pick 5 and select Kenny Pickett, quarterback from Pittsburgh. Pitt. Vikings have a new regime. They extended Cousins for a year, but I personally think that's to backload the money a little bit more, and so that they can trade him in the offseason like what the quarterbacks have been doing this year. That's my little conspiracy theory that I have brewing, and I'll put in my pen to the paper in this one. I had this in my last mock draft, and I'm keeping it. I almost took it out, but I'm keeping it. I'm sticking to my guns, and it might make it to my next mock draft too. I'm sticking to my guns on it. He just seems like a Vikings quarterback to me. Like the more I have watched him, like his tape, whatnot, I'm just like, it looks like he's wearing purple and gold. Purple and gold. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what this new regime wants though, so I could be wrong. I could very well be just being stupid. I am stupid sometimes. But Kenny Pickett to the Vikings 5th overall. Sue me. Now we're at pick 6. The Carolina Panthers have traded back, like I said. And who are they? Who would want to trade up? Who'd still want to trade up at this point? Like the quarterback is gone, unless someone trading up for the other quarterback. Is someone trading up for Malik Willis? Is someone trading up with Carolina Panthers for Malik Willis? In this scenario, no. However, I did heavily consider moving the Seahawks from pick 9 to pick 6 to take Malik Willis. I did consider that. And that might be my next mock draft. It might be. I'm not going to guarantee it. However, I think potentially they actually both call. I think they both make that call, saying like to the Panthers, saying, "Hey, what's it gonna take to give this up?" And they're gonna say, "Oh, we're gonna need at least 1 second, at least 1/3." What's it called? Seattle's gonna be like, I don't know about all that. Here's 2/3, and then what's it called? Texans are gonna be like, oh, word. Here's 2 seconds, because they do pick a little bit further back than 9. They pick at 13, so an extra 4 picks to have. I think the value is gonna be there. Something like that. I think the Texans have a little more ammunition than Seattle does, and I think that's why they're going to be a little bit more aggressive. And the Panthers are going to trade back to pick 13 with the Texans. So the Texans are going to be selecting the first tackle off the board, and that is Neal from Alabama. Just an absolutely athletic freak, just a freak of nature. He's like 340 and like 6-pack abs. It doesn't make sense. I saw the video of him doing like a jump where you spread into the like a lunge pose where you put your one leg out and at a bended knee and the other one straight back. Jumped probably 4, 5, 6, I don't know, a lot of feet. He jumped very high, especially for a very large man. He jumped very, very, very high. He's very, very athletic, and he's very strong. He's definitely worthy of this pick. He might go number 1 overall to the Jags. He might just go number 1 overall. But I have him going 6th overall to the Texans, who are going to shoot back up from 13 to 6 to take their second top 10 pick, which is going to be Neal, tackle from Alabama. Now the Giants pick 7 Now, one of the reasons why the Giants were willing to trade away pick 5 instead of pick 7 in my scenario is because both of the tackles that they probably want are still on the board at that point. So at that point, with that logic, if they trade away the pick to the Vikings or whoever whoever it's going to be, that they know that it's going to be a quarterback taken, Kenny Pickett's going to go off the board, and then they still have pick 7, which means there's one pick between their next pick. Well, one position player. Yeah, one player between the next pick because they don't have to worry about quarterback. In this scenario, the other tackle went off the board, which means they take the other tackle who they probably were on the other side of a gap out because they're both very, very good. Ike Okwonu goes to the Giants at pick 7 overall, tackle from NC State. Now, it could be vice versa here. I just think Evan Neal goes sooner because he seems to be a bit more athletic. He's athletic, but Evan Neal is one of those just like, oh my God, how does that person exist? They're both going to be extremely successful, I think. And the reason why I have this next trade is because of the Icky situation. The Giants don't want to trade back again because they've already traded one of their picks away. They've acquired picks already. They don't need to trade back, but they need to acquire one of the players they said we're not leaving here without. And that's one of the tackles. The other one's already gone. They're on the board. They can either trade back and take some more picks, which they don't really need in this scenario anymore, or they can take their guy. And I think they take their guy instead of listening to the phone calls. Which means now the Falcons on their board at pick 8, and I think the Falcons, being in a full rebuild, it seems, well, not full rebuild. Okay, they're in a full rebuild, but they're going to be like, we're going to try and win games. And they're going to try and win games, but like, man, that's a lot of one-year contracts. So I really think the Falcons are going to trade back from pick 8 to whoever the highest bidder is for basically quarterback Malik Willis. And I think based on how everything's unfolded here, I think it's going to be the Steelers. I think it's going to be the Steelers. A lot of people speculate that the Saints are going to try and move up and grab Willis. I personally think that it's fucking stupid. Like, so stupid. I don't really think that a lot of NFL buzz it's maybe a lot of it, a decent bit of it's just ooh, but and it's a lot of those still kind of you can fib around and make it not loophole, but open-ended, broad kind of way, speculate on it. Yeah, sure, maybe we get something. But then there's the speculating that a team that's trying to compete right now, for a championship, that the team that's trying to compete right now that has, let's say, it's got a few holes, but two major holes, is going to not draft either of those two positions, and instead going to use those two premium position picks to trade up for a quarterback when they already have 3.5 on the roster. You don't need but 2. Some teams carry 3, but you don't need 4. Given the one that I mentioned as a half, he's now playing tight end fully. It's Taysom Hill. So the 3 quarterbacks they have now in depth order from 3rd to 1st. It's Ian Book, a guy who they drafted last year, who played awfully. So he's probably not going to stay on the team long. Number 2, quarterback Andy Dalton, guy they just signed, and he's already vocalized that he is here to be the backup. The backup to who, you might ask? That's quarterback Jamison Williams, a guy that was doing pretty darn well for them before he got injured. You got quarterbacks there. Malik Willis is a project, and he could be dynamite. But they're trying to win a championship. Why would they go and draft a quarterback to have him never play a game. Like in a year, you're trying to win a championship. Like, what are you, the Packers? So I don't think so. I don't buy that. And even if they were trying to get Malik Willis in this scenario, they would have to trade with the Giants, because the Giants would be like, because the Panthers are not allowing the Saints to draft a quarterback. The Falcons are not allowing the Saints to draft a quarterback. It's not happening. It's not going in the division. It's not going to happen. The Giants would have to be the team to allow that. At least in this scenario. So instead, the Falcons trade with the Steelers to draft quarterback Malik Willis, quarterback, I already said that, from Liberty. So now we're at pick 9, and the Seahawks select Charles Cross, tackle from Texas A&M. Now, I personally think the Seahawks want Malik Willis, or even Kenny Pickett. I think they'd like both of them a good bit, but I think they don't want to move up for either of them. I think they might offer or consider it, but I don't think they're going to be super aggressive about it. And I think they're just going to try and let things come to them for the most part. At least at this point, because they'd have to trade with the Giants, or even the Panthers, and that's probably it. Those are the two teams they could really realistically trade with to draft a quarterback, and that's not the most ideal trade partners, honestly. So I don't think they do pull that trigger. So I think instead they take the best player on their board. For their board, and I think in the scenario for their board is they like to be a run heavy team. Now, given the tackle I'm about to list is not a run heavy tackle, but he's a pass blocker. He's a pass blocker, but he's a tackle, and he's the best tackle available. They might draft a different tackle, but I can't justify picking a lower tier tackle instead of the one that's just not good. I can't justify that. He's a great pass blocker, and he's a pretty decent run blocker. Sure, he doesn't have the most experience doing it, but he's decent. Seahawks select Charles Cross because there's no quarterbacks that they like left. Now with the 10th overall pick, we're back at the Jets again. Wow, look at that. The Jets select Trayvon Walker, defensive lineman from Georgia. He's listed as an edge sometimes, depending on who you're talking to. But when you look at his athletic profile, he also lines up inside. He can do anything on that D-line. He can do it all. He's athletic enough to do it all. He's also big enough to do it all. Combine, blew it out the wazoo, blew it out the water. He might go higher if say Kayvon Thibodeau and Aiden Hutchinson go 2-1 overall, or vice versa. Trayvon Walker is going much higher in this draft. He's not making it to 10 if the first two picks are defensive end. But in this scenario, Trayvon Walker makes it to 10. I considered having the Jets take Drake London. I really considered it. I had that in my last mock draft, but I think they're gonna look at Trayvon Walker still falling to them at 10. They're gonna be okay. I think that's how they're gonna feel about it. Cause they have other picks to hit the needs. The top picks are for players that you think are the best. And I think they're gonna value Trayvon Walker more than a receiver and Drake London. Moving on to pick 11, we have the Commanders, who benefit from the Jets not taking a wide receiver at pick 10 in front of them, and they take the first receiver off the board, which is Garrett Wilson, the wide receiver from Ohio State. Garrett Wilson's a phenomenal route runner. He's very fast. And I think he played with Terry McLaurin, not guaranteed, but I know they both went to the same college. So that's pretty cool. They need another outside wide receiver. What else? They have other weaknesses on their team, and they could afford to draft other players, but it seems to be almost unanimous, at least in terms of the Washington community of speculation, that it's going to be a wide receiver. And I think Wilson fits their bill the best. Then you look at pick 12. This is where the Giants traded back from. The Giants were at pick 5 in this scenario, but they traded back with the Vikings because the Vikings traded up to take Kenny Pickett. Now I think there's a few teams that are super high on Stingley, and I think the Vikings are one of them. And if the Vikings don't trade up to draft Pickett, then I think 12 is like, it's not the true floor, but it's basically the floor. Because I think if the Vikings can grab Stingley, they're gonna run to the podium. I think the true floor for him is at pick 15, but I don't think he falls that far. Like I said, I have him at pick 3, so he could go anywhere from 1 to 15, but he probably, yeah, I'm speaking too much. The Vikings are not on the board of the scenario. It's the Giants because they traded back. And the Giants drafted the tackle with their first pick, and they probably were wanting Kayvon Thibodeau. Like, they probably were wanting him, at least based on my speculation. And he's not there anymore. He's not. So they might take the next best edge rusher available, or they might like look at it and go, "Hey, we just got a first round pick next year." Like, just take the best player available, and it happens to be like defensive player, safety, Kyle Hamilton, who is probably a top 3 player, but I have falling down my board because of his position, which is safety, which is not an incredibly like valuable one, but he might make it valuable. But there's probably some also questions from some GMs about if he is gonna be playing safety, because GMs just like to question stuff like that randomly. So I have him going 12 overall to the Giants if they're a trade back. Kyle Hamilton, safety, Notre Dame. Moving on to pick 13. This was the Texans pick, and now it's the Panthers pick because the Panthers traded back to acquire more picks because Kenny Pickett went right in front of them. So they're going to take the best tackle available, which might be Charles Cross if the Seahawks like to go with a run heavy blocking guy. Words. But I don't think they do. So instead, the Panthers are taking the next best tackle off the board, which is Trevor Penning from Northern Iowa. I think the Panthers would be pretty happy about that. They get a left tackle / right tackle. I think they get a left tackle. They pick up a left tackle, and they probably definitely want Charles Cross more, but like they need those second and third round picks. So they're gonna be happy they get a second and third round pick and get to have a tackle as one of those picks as well. Sure, they didn't get the quarterback they wanted, but it's not a bad consolation prize. Moving on to pick 14 is the Ravens. Now, the Ravens love to trade back. They could trade up and take a tackle, but I don't think that's super likely. I think it's a fairly competitive market to trade up this year. And the Ravens don't like to give up that much. They're very savvy. So I have the Ravens actually trading back with a team who's it's going to be one of two teams. There's going to be two teams, at least two specific teams making that call. There's going to be a few other ones. I think it's going to be like probably three or four teams calling the Ravens about this pick. But there's going to be two teams that are going to be calling and like making offers, making dueling offers. That's going to be the Green Bay Packers and the Kansas City Chiefs. And they're both going to be gunning for the exact same thing. They're both going to be looking for a wide receiver. And let me tell you why. They're going to be looking for a wide receiver. The Eagles pick 15. The Eagles' needs include wide receiver. The Saints pick 16. One of their needs include wide receiver. And then they got the Saints and the Eagles again, and the Chargers in between there. Like, a receiver is definitely going off the board between those picks. The Chiefs and the Packers both have 2 first-round picks, and they both just lost their alpha receiver to trade. They both need a receiver. but it's fairly obvious that both of them are trying to get a top receiver, which I think is going to cause them to kind of butt heads, because I don't think they're going to want to trade up to 10 to grab the guy, which means they're going to end up missing out on at least one, maybe two receivers. But 14, that's a nice spot. That's a spot ahead of guys. It's the chance to get ahead of two more receivers taken off the board and get your guy. Now, the Chiefs have more firepower, but the Packers have a better slot to trade back to. The Chiefs, you'd have to trade back to 29. The Packers, you'd have to trade back to 22 at the earliest. So that's much more desirable for a team trading back. So I think the Packers are the team that pulls off the trade in the scenario, in the confrontation, the argument between the Chiefs and the Packers for who gets the Ravens' 14th overall pick, and the Packers trade up to 14 and select Chris Olave, the other wide receiver from Ohio State, route runner, not as fast but ridiculous route runner. Which I think is going to be phenomenally phenomenal for Aaron Rodgers after missing or losing the best route runner in the league this year. It's offseason, I should say. Now we're moving on to pick 15, and we have the Eagles' first pick of the draft. The Eagles are going to be selecting the best cornerback available. I think they're semi-pissed that it's not Stingley. But I don't think they can reasonably expect him to fall here anymore. So I think they are reasonably adjusting their expectations and looking at what's available. And I think they're afraid the Saints are going to draft a wide receiver or a corner as well, because the Saints needs to include corner. And I think they're going to think that pick 3 is cornerback 3 is going to be higher in value than pick cornerback 4 and 5, which is Trent McDuffie. He's a shorter guy, but he's very, very good. Might be what's needed with Darius Slay manning the outside, and hey, McDuffie might be a decent slot corner. Who knows? No, they could go McDuffie here, or they could go who I have them taken at 18, because they also might worry about that, and they also might value him higher and think he's a higher talent. But I have them taking McDuffie first at pick 15, the cornerback from Washington. And now I have the Saints at pick 16, and I think that they are taking, with their first round pick, I think they are taking a tackle. I think they're taking the next best tackle available. Now, it could be anybody from Abraham Lucas, Tyler Smith, all the way down to Bernhard Raimann. Any of which is their preference. I have seen Bernhard rated pretty highly, so I'm going to assume he's their next highest. But it's going to have to be a left tackle, I think, unless they're planning on moving either all-pro right tackle to left tackle, which doesn't sound very productive. Or seem beneficial, I should say. So I think they're going to draft Bernhard Raimann or some other tackle here at pick 16. Now, pick 17, we have the Chargers. The Chargers are in a prime spot as well. They're right before, again, the Eagles and Saints pick. Wow, just like the Ravens were. And they're in a spot where they're probably shooting for a championship, so they could reasonably say no to all the offers and try to just gun it with what they got right now. But they are semi-lacking in mid-round picks. Let me make sure I got that right. Yeah, they only have 2 picks within the first 120. They pick 17 and 79. So I could see a team who's trying to move up maybe about 9, 8, 5 spots, giving them their second this year, and their second next year maybe, or second, third this year, and then their second and third this year, and then getting back like a 5th round from the Chargers. 'Cause the Chargers have late round picks, but they just don't have early round picks. So that's what I think would happen in this scenario. And the team that, like, you gotta also gotta look at the scenario, like this, like who would be trying to leapfrog who, and for what. And I think in this scenario, wide receiver is still very attractive. And I think if the Packers don't successfully trade up with the Ravens at 14, the Packers will successfully trade up with the Chargers at 17. But I think the Ravens are more likely, because I think that pick is just slightly more desirable because it's in front of both the Eagles and the Saints' first pick instead of their second pick. But the Chargers pick is still valuable. Unfortunately, it's probably the most valuable to the Chiefs. Meaning, if the Chiefs really want that trade to actually be pulled off, because they're in the same division, they're going to need to unload some picks. They're going to need to kind of lose the trade to make it happen, because you don't want to trade away your first round pick to your division rival and then watch them draft the best player in the draft because of you. You're going to suffer from that for way too long. So teams typically avoid that. Instead, they're going to trade with a team that's in the other conference that's trying to trade up. And I think the teams that are trying to trade up in this scenario are the Cowboys, the Cardinals, and most importantly, the Chiefs as well. But most importantly, the Buccaneers. Now the Buccaneers are trying to go all in and win another title, right? I mean, that's what you'd expect with Brady back at the helm after retiring for 20 days, some shit. Brady was not gone long, because it's clear he wants to win another title. He wants to pursue it, and all 3 of these teams have one thing in common. What's that? Need at interior offensive line. Now the Cowboys have needs at 2 of their offensive line spots, so it's not just that. But the tackle is fairly set for the Buccaneers, and tackle is fairly set for the Cardinals as far as I know. But the Cardinals do need a center and they do need a guard. But the Buccaneers are trying to win the Super Bowl right now, and they have a very small window, because they know Brady's contract is after this year. So even if Brady doesn't retire, he's going somewhere else. He's not staying with the Bucs, probably. So you want to make sure you don't optimize the time you have with Brady to the maximum effect. So you could draft a receiver here. But do you want to have your 45-year-old quarterback standing in front of a worse line than he had last year? Sure, he was great behind that phenomenal line, but do you want to have him behind a worse one? Not really. No, you don't. So you're going to try and fix the weakest link in that O-line, which, guard. The center's fine. The right tackle's phenomenal. The left tackle's all right. Draft a guard, draft the best guard in the whole draft. Suddenly that O-line looks back to dominant, and that's a recipe for Brady winning. So I think the Buccaneers trade up to pick 17 and take Zion Johnson, the best guard in the draft from Boston College. Chargers, I think, trade back to pick 27, so which is 10 picks. The Eagles are now at pick 18, and they are going to count their lucky stars that Devin Lloyd was not drafted by the Chargers right ahead of them. I don't think the Chargers really value linebackers that much anyway. I think the Chargers have their eye on someone else. I don't know if he's going to fall to them in this scenario. I say as if I didn't already finish this mock draft. So the Eagles are happy that Devin Lloyd's available. I think they're heavily considering taking him at 15, but instead of this scenario they take him at 18. Devin Lloyd, linebacker from Utah. Moving on to pick 19. we have the New Orleans Saints taking the next wide receiver off the board because I think they value tackle more than wide receiver, and that is wide receiver Jamison Williams. Super fast, arguably the best receiver in the whole draft, but he had an injury last year, and it's ACL, so he should be good to go soon. I think by training camp that's what they said. So he'll get to practice and whatnot, but he is still coming off an injury, which lowers his draft stock a little bit. A phenomenal pick for them. I really hope it doesn't happen. Really hope I'm not willing it into the universe. So don't do this. Saints, please make me wrong about this one pick. As long as it doesn't take away the next pick, because if the Saints have to take this guy for the next pick to happen, like, I'm okay with that. I'll take that bite. Now I have the Steelers trading up with the Falcons, which means the Steelers trade away this pick. So the Falcons pick at 20 now. In this scenario, I have the Falcons taking a guy who I think they honestly could very well take at 8, and I wouldn't be mad at. Now, it's very possible that this guy goes ahead of Atlanta. He could go at 19. He could go at any of the Saints picks. He could go at any of the Eagles picks. He could go at the Ravens pick. He could go at any of the Titans picks. He could be a Viking. Like, he could be a Seahawk. He has a bunch of teams that potentially could hit him, not him, but pick him. And I ended up deciding that I think their needs or their desires are slightly aimed elsewhere. Now, it's very possible that I had a slight bias with this. I don't think I did, because I never at one point was like, oh, he'd be great here. And I was like, no, I never had one of those. I just had moments where I was like, but what in this situation? And I you know what I mean? He was never the first one that came to mind. I never had to justify it. It just kind of accidentally being like, oh, like the guy I want my team to draft is taking my guy after a trade back, as being drafted by my team after a trade back, and he fell this far. Like, do I think he falls this far in real life? Like, yes, because of this, but because I think this is 100% going to happen in reality. But of course I'm wrong, because I can't guarantee all of these scenarios are going to happen. One of these scenarios is going to be wrong and cause all of the scenarios to be wrong, which is going to push players on the board and whatnot, especially players that are at certain positions. If for example, like I said, if Kayvon Thibodeau and Aiden Hutchinson go 1 and 2 overall, then Walker's going somewhere in the top 5, top 10, and if Walker is gone after pick 5 or pick 8, pick 10, then suddenly Jermaine becomes the next best edge, without question. After he already was the next best edge available, so he could go anywhere. So I'd be over the moon if this happened, as a Falcons fan. Jermaine Johnson, edge from FSU. I love edge rushers, and I think he might be that good. I'd be happy if Atlanta takes him at 8. I won't drop a single beat as well. I'd be celebrating if you draft him at 8. So if we end up somehow drafting at 20, which shouldn't happen, but yeah, man. So moving on for pick 20, we are at pick 21, and we have the New England Patriots. Now, I think they also have a need at guard, but, best guard is gone. And so they could take a center, or I think they could take, a guy who's, Bill Belichick is just salivating to get his hands on, which is Nakobe Dean, the linebacker from Georgia. He's not only fast, smart, and hits hard, but he can understand things because of how smart he is. He's not just good at reading the play as it's right when it starts. He knows the play before it starts. He is going to be perfect for Bill Belichick. Calling plays through him is going to be something that Bill Belichick is going to just he's probably, I don't know how necessarily important middle linebackers are to them, but then again, they like to rotate guys out in any way. They never like to actually give true value to players. They had a top 3 corner on their team, and they refused to pay him. So, just this past offseason. So I think they go Nakobe Dean, linebacker, Georgia. The second linebacker off the board. Now we're at pick 22, which was formerly the Packers, but in the scenario, the Packers successfully traded up to pick 14 with the Ravens, which means the Ravens are at pick 22. And the Ravens have not a whole lot of needs, but they do need to replace some guys. And since I've written out this mock draft, I might have to change this pick. I don't know if I honestly will, because the Ravens are a smart team who seems to draft before the need hits, before they actually are like, oh, we're down a guy here, we need to draft. I don't know why I get that accent, but oh, we're down a guy here, we need to draft his replacement. No, they seem to like to draft the guy's replacements like a year or two, a year before they have to full on do it. Now there's different like instances and whatnot. So they might draft Tyler Linderbaum, the center, but I have a buddy who's a Ravens fan, so I get the Ravens info, the Ravens scoops, and I happen to listen to it might have been the GM, but talk about how there's like centers, like good centers throughout, and how he likes bigger guys at the center and guard positions. And so I think that kind of rules out Tyler Linderbaum as a potential first round pick option for them. And he's the most Raven guy left on the board, other than one guy, and that's George Karlaftis, who is extremely solid in the run game and is pretty darn good in the pass rush, like pretty darn good. He's also very athletic for how big he is. The reason why I'm second guessing this pick now is because since I actually wrote this down and finished like picking all the players, there's been news come out that the Ravens have actually signed Calais Campbell, who's a very good defensive end, but aging, very old. So he'll probably retire after this contract. Might not, might keep going. Who knows? He's good. A 2-year contract, so they might just be hoping to cut him after this year. Either way, even if they don't cut him after this year, it never hurts to have more edge players, more good D-line players, and they know that. So I think they it's not out of the realm of possibility still. It's still fairly likely that they take the best player available in this scenario, and it happened to be not a tackle, which is probably not ideal. I think the tackle situation's fine. They're George Karlaftis, defensive end, Purdue. Very good. 23, the Cardinals don't have to trade up for their man. They hands have fallen to him anyway. Tyler Linderbaum. I don't think they still have Rodney Hudson. I might be wrong. But even if so, Linderbaum might be able to play a little bit guard for like a pinch in at guard a little while, because I know they just signed Hernandez to play guard, so they don't have like starter. Like he's the starter. Well, Hernandez is a starter, but like he's not like firmly rooted there. He can be removed from that spot, so you might not add like protection to your quarterback who just had a diva tantrum during the offseason. Tyler Linderbaum, center, Iowa Cardinals. You know he's going to be phenomenal because he's an offensive lineman from Iowa. It's just one of those schools that just produces like phenomenal players at certain positions, and offensive line being one of them. Moving on to pick 24, we have the Dallas Cowboys. And the Dallas Cowboys could go a number of directions. They could, and all of those directions are all splashy because it's Jerry Jones making the picks. You look at the players that are left. They're not going to take a quarterback, obviously. Top corners are gone. The top edge players are gone. Top safeties are gone. What's available? Well, there's two players at the top of their near the top of their arguably at the top of their position grouping available still. And that's Jordan Davis, defensive tackle from Georgia, and Drake London, wide receiver. Part of me says they go Jordan Davis because they're going to try and make that defense formidable. And they saw how like raw his athletics are, his combine numbers and whatnot. So I think that he's fairly likely, like, might be their guy here. If Drake London wasn't on the board. I think Jerry Jones is going to, like, be, going through his guys, whatever. He's going to see Drake London. He's going to watch that guy. He was 6'5", runs pretty well, but breaks tackles. Like, 6'5" and you're breaking tackles. Not just, like, running through. You're making people look silly. Like, he should not have fallen this far. He could have gone to any of the other receiver teams at any point, and even a number of other teams. But I just have, like I said, like, teams prioritizing different spots because there's a plethora of very good receivers in the top of the second, middle of the second, even back into the first. So I think they're prioritizing other positions. So I think that pushes Drake London down the board, and he's an arguably top 10 player. And I think Jerry Jones is going to be like, and we have evidence of Jerry Jones doing that with CeeDee Lamb. And it worked out, so why would Jerry Jones not be like, let's do it again? Now, I think if you remove the splash from the equation with the Cowboys, and you think logically they need a guard and a tackle, they should draft a guard / center or tackle. If I'm the Cow, I would draft a tackle. I'll take Abraham Lucas here from the Cowboys. But I personally think Jerry Jones sees Drake London and just, like, you know what I mean? So I think that's one of those, like, picks where he's just going to take over and say, I want that one. No, give me that one. Because that's what he did with CD. And, like, sure, they're both slot receivers, but CD's showing he can play outside, too. Like, move CD outside. Let the rookie have the slot for a little while. Let the 6'5" rookie have the slot. And even then, like, receivers take plays off. So Jerry Jones is going to talk himself into taking CeeDee Lamb. So Drake London. Drake London at pick 24, if he's available. Moving on to pick 25, we have the Buffalo Bills. Now, the Buffalo Bills could also take Jordan Davis here. Jordan Davis could have gone at a number of picks prior, but he's not the best pass rusher. He's more of a run stopper and just really athletic who could develop into a phenomenal pass rusher. So that's why he's continuing to fall down the board. And I think the Bills are going to look at that and go, we need pass rush. And they're going to be like, we really missed White last year. We really missed White whenever he went down, their cornerback. So I think they're going to go, we got one of the best cornerbacks available on the board still. And he's falling down because of an injury history, which isn't an extensive injury history, and it's a recent hernia. So it shouldn't be too long, and it shouldn't hold him back from anything, especially long term. So he's probably not going to fall too far down boards, and this is probably around the range where I personally would take him. So it's a good value, and it probably fits the team as well. So the Bills take cornerback Andrew Booth from Clemson. Now we're moving on to pick 26. And if you thought I had too many trades in my draft, let me tell you, I got another one. I got another one. The Titans. The Titans are trading back from pick 26. And who are they trading back with? Where are they trading back to? They are trading back to pick 43 overall in this scenario. Who with? The Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons are trading up to pick 26. They're probably gonna, in the process of doing this, probably give up the Steelers' first round pick next year that they acquired from the trade back initially, and then like a second or third round pick from this year, and then it's another one, maybe one from that's also from the draft or not, probably not. The Titans, they're not. The Titans only have 2 picks within the top 130. They pick at 26 and 90, so they probably want a second round pick real bad. So if Atlanta's calling out going, hey, you move back 17 spots, we'll give you a second round this year and a third and a first round next year. And they go, yeah. And they also have 5 picks next draft, so they're probably going to want to acquire picks for next year, unless they want to trade away players and acquire picks that way. So I think that's why the Tennessee trades back from 26, and I think Atlanta makes a lot of sense to trade up. It could be any of the other quarterback wanting teams, but Atlanta and Tennessee already have prior history with trading, and there's logical reasoning behind it. Atlanta picks a trade up to pick 26 and takes a quarterback. Would you like to guess which quarterback? It's quarterback Desmond Redder from Cincinnati. Runs like a 4.5 40. A bit smarter of analyzing style quarterback, or at least has shown that he has had to run a system like that. So it's shown that he already has experience with it. Doesn't have like a cannon of an arm, but doesn't have a weak arm whatsoever. He seems like a good overall player. I think he's like 25 though, if I'm not wrong. I like him. I think he could be very good, but I also think he could be like a Brandon Whedon, in the sense that he's just a bit old and isn't really going to develop more after this. I think it's definitely more stage 1, because quarterbacks do absolutely continue to develop into the age like past age 30. Like they get their best ages are usually picked ages like 30, 32 to like 34. Yeah. So I think Atlanta's gonna take a shot on him. They could not though. They might not. But I think they do. And moving on to pick 27, we have the Chargers. The Chargers originally picked at pick 17, but they traded it back 10 spots because the Buccaneers are going to trade up to take a guard. In the Chargers scenario here, the guy they wanted all along is still on the board somehow. He didn't go off. He almost did a couple times, but he didn't. And that's defensive tackle Jordan Davis. They couldn't stop the run for the life of them last year. So they're probably salivating at the mouth to get their hands on a defensive tackle who can't rush the passer but can stop the run like no one's business. And I'm saying he can't rush the passer, but he hasn't shown to be a pass rusher nearly to the extent that other defensive tackles and defensive ends have shown that they are already in the draft. But he could turn into he could turn into the best defensive player in the whole league. He's that athletic. He's like 6'7", if I might be wrong, but I think he's like 6'7", 6'8", like 330, and he's very. I don't know what his 40 time, but he's very fast. So I have the Chargers taking Jordan Davis, defensive tackle, Georgia, at pick 27 after a trade back. And now I have the Green Bay Packers at pick 28, their second first-round pick, taking the other Georgia defensive tackle. So it's back-to-back Georgia defensive tackles, and that's Devontae, I think his first name, Wyatt. Devontae Wyatt from Georgia defensive tackle. And then moving on to pick 29, the Chiefs weren't able to trade up in this scenario, but it's not the end of the world for them because there's plenty of good receivers in this draft. They have a selection of any of the second round or hinge first round guys they want. Like let's just go through some. They could draft Calvin Austin. They could draft Sky Moore. They could draft Christian Watson. They could draft Treylon Burks. They could draft what's his name, David Bell. Probably not though. Like they can draft Wan'Dale Robinson. They can draft as any other receivers that they like. Jahan Dotson, like, and then what's the other one? Can't remember what the other one was. There's one more. I had Calvin Austin written here because he's the most like Tyreek Hill. and I don't know if they're just like trying to like fill that role or replace it, or if they're trying to go a new direction with it. But I think with the 2 first-round picks, they're definitely planning to put one of it in defense, and they've lost both their starting safeties from last year, Sorensen and Matthew. And I think, and they did it pretty willingly. So I feel like they, one, have a guy who's ready to fill that role, and two, know that they can draft a guy with one of these picks. So I think that's what their first priority is, and that's going to be Jalen Peter, the safety from Baylor. Very smart guy, very, very smart player. He can also play corner, which Tyrann Mathieu also good. So all of a sudden you've got your Tyrann Mathieu replacement right there. And then the next pick, the 30th overall pick, is also the Chiefs. And the Chiefs in this scenario are going to select a wide receiver, like I said, any of which, it could be Calvin Austin if they want to try to replicate the Tyreek Hill situation, or in a scary scenario, they go with arguably the most productive wide receiver in like SEC or whatever. That's Treylon Burks, guy who's 6'3", and had like over 1,000 receiving yards last year. That might break the league if I'm being real with you. Treylon Burks might be the first receiver off the board. Probably won't be, but he could be. Like, he's, like I said, the top. There could be 8 receivers go in the first round, and the order of which is anyone's best guess. Truly, like Garrett Wilson and Drake London are like 1A, 1B, and depends on what the preference is. I feel like more teams are going to prefer an outside guy over a slot guy, even if he is 6'5", which is why I had Wilson going ahead of him. And same thing with Olave. I just think that he matches Green Bay more. At least the team that drafted him makes sense. But now in this scenario, like, there's only one receiver left that I think makes more sense to the Chiefs, and that's Calvin Austin. But he's not as talented as Burks is probably used to, or seems to be. And they could draft another one in the second round. So they're going to take the fly, or take the chance, the most bountiful possibility of the receivers that are available. So they're going to take Treylon Burks at pick 30, wide receiver from Arkansas. Now we're moving on to pick 31. We're going on to pick 31. And originally I had the Bengals drafting a safety, and Lewis signed the speedster safety who tackles well from Georgia. But that's not the scenario anymore. Nope, it's not the scenario anymore. We have had 3 quarterbacks off the board so far in the first round. We had Kenny Pickett and Malik Willis both get traded up the draft. And then we had Desmond Redder, pick 26, also get traded up the draft. Now we're at pick 31 and 32. A very special thing about first-round picks is that they come with a fifth-year team option for the player. So they can choose to not pick it up and not pay him extra money and just let him test out free agency, or they could re-sign him or whatnot. But usually teams will do the 5th-year deal first, or 5th-year option. You don't get a 5th-year option with a second-round pick. Which means if you want to have a player to have their 5th-year option, you have to draft them in the first round. And it's very optimistic. What's ideal? It's very ideal for a team to have a quarterback on a rookie contract, because it allows you to not pay him that much, and you can pay the rest of the positions and put money elsewhere. And there's only 2 spots left in the first round. I personally don't think the Lions are going to be willing to trade back from pick 32, because they also have pick 34. Well, they might be willing to do it, but it's going to cost a penny. But I personally don't think it's going to happen because of something I'll tell you in a second. But the Seahawks call up the Bengals and they weren't willing to give up as much as they would have had to, and earlier to move up earlier in the top 10 of the draft, you know. But to move up to pick 31, that's not as expensive. So the Seahawks call the Bengals and they trade up to pick 31. And they make sure they get a quarterback they like, and that's Matt Corral, quarterback, Ole Miss. They can start the season with Drew Lock, and if it doesn't work out, they can roll the Matt Corral. And Pete Carroll likes running the ball anyway. Why not run it with Matt Corral? He's a running quarterback. It seems. I don't like Matt Corral. I'll be real with you, but teams seem to like him. He could be really good. I could be very wrong. I kind of hope I'm wrong. I want every player to succeed. Every decent person, human person in the draft want to succeed. You know what I mean? Yeah. He makes sense for them. They've had interviews with him. It seems they like him. Probably not enough at pick 9. I kind of hope so. That'd be pretty good for my team. Maybe. I don't know. My team picks right before it. Maybe. Depends on the draft. I need to go to sleep. We're an hour into this already. But we're way past an hour into this. And we're at the last 2 picks of the draft. The Seahawks traded up to select quarterback Matt Corral, Ole Miss. We got 1 pick left in the first round. I'm not going to do the second. But I will guess that the Lions pick Chad Mumma at pick 34. That's my guess. But back to pick 32, which is the end of the first round. Last pick of the first round. The Lions could trade this pick back. They could do you want that 5th-year option? You want that 5th-year option, don't you? Yeah, come up and get this. You want that 5th-year? Come get this 5th-year option. They could be like that. They could say that. They could want the 5th-year option, but to trade away, make it enticing to other teams because they have picked two picks away. Maybe they don't want the 5th-year option that bad. Maybe they don't. That's how they would acquire more picks. So I could see that happening. I could definitely see that happening. And it's an ideal spot to take a quarterback. This is the spot to take a quarterback. A team might trade up and do it. But I don't think they trade. Why don't they take the ideal trade scenario? Because I think they take the ideal quarterback scenario for themselves. Yeah. Yeah. They have Jared Goff on a contract for 2 more years, but they can get out of it after this year. Not saying Jared Goff isn't a good quarterback, but I don't think he's what they want to keep doing for the long term. I think Dan Campbell likes old school. He's made that clear. He likes old school, and I think if you keep talking about old school, man, you're talking about pocket passing quarterbacks. You're not talking about mobile guys. You're not talking about guys who extend plays. And no, you're talking about guys who just win the play that they're supposed to. That's Carson Strong. He's got an absolute cannon. Can't move worth a shit, but he's got an absolute cannon. And he can put a ball in any window. And he can read defense okay. He's not dynamite. He's not phenomenal, but the part he's good at, he's pretty darn good at. So I think he might continue to be good. I don't know, man. I think Carson Strong in Detroit would be pretty good. I'm not sure. I think he's all right. So with the last pick of the first round, the Detroit Lions select quarterback Carson Strong, Nevada. Thank you all for watching. I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, no. 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 8 picks predicted for the first round of this draft. Wild. Like I said, this is probably wrong, but like, hey, I might be right. Fuck it. I've spent a good bit of time speculating and figuring out and trying to like and analyzing like draft like history and what's it called, patterns and whatnot. So I think my educated guess is fairly alright. It's not the worst thing ever. So but I hope you all enjoyed. If you like the NFL, you're in the right spot, and I applaud you for lasting this long. Like if you'd like the sound of my voice, like if you've gotten this far, and I also applaud you. You should be asleep. You should be asleep. Go get some sleep. Thank you all for watching. I love you all. I'm excited for the draft. It's like 3 weeks away. I know you keep seeing me point like and tap my screen. It keeps telling me on my phone's at 10%. Like if it's, I know it's about to die, but like it told me 10% like 3 times. I'm just rambling at this point. Good night. Good night. Good night. Happy drafting. I hope you like my rambling, like I'm doing right now. Sweet dreams. Nighty night.